with non-reversionary leases. Now, this is difficult to read, but again, it's included in your handout if you need it. But you'll see that there's nothing specific, the information I gave you, there's nothing specific about the last 7 I want, but I really want to talk about these top 3. The first one is Grand Junction Regional, which we just talked about, that JVation didn't have the correct data on that. The second 2, St. George Municipal Airport, which we all know, and Billings Logan Airport in Montana, both switched over from reversionary leases to non-reversionary leases in the last 2 years. And the reason I want to talk about them because their officials up there are actually very willing to discuss it with people about how this happened. For example, here's an email from Brad Kitchen, who's the airport operations supervisor at St. George. And I'm not going to take the time to read this to you, it's in your packet. He goes over the reasons why they decided reversionary leases aren't the way to go. Second one from Mrs. Marita Harrell up in Billings, who's the airport business manager at Billings Logan. And she goes through a detailed reason, the problems they had, and why they elected to do this as well. Now, last item that I want to talk about was about competing ground lease analysis. Of course, that's the one that Barry told you about. Heber City previously paid for the consulting firm Airport Business Solutions for almost a nearly identical study of West McDonald's Field back in 2007. Nothing was ever done about it. Most people I talked to don't even know it exists. The real significance of that study is that, first of all, it's much longer, much more thorough. But ABS's study significantly differs from JVation's analysis and the resulting recommendations from that. And I'm going to give you just 2 examples of that. First of all, this is the cover letter that came with it, and I just wanted to highlight that February 2007 when it was done. And it was an airport lease analysis for Heber City Municipal Airport. You can see it right there. So my first comparison I want to make between JVation and ABS is for the Daniels 25-year non-reversionary leases. And so JVation recommended, and I'm going to paraphrase this a little bit, essentially the 25-year non-reversionary leases, at the end of them, there was nothing specified. The JVation said, so, okay, at the end of that 25 years, we're going to switch you over and give you a 5-year reversionary lease, which means they would change the hangar from non-reversionary to reversionary, and where the ownership would go to the city in that additional 5 years. And then the killer here is that owners that don't accept the reversionary lease will be required to move the hangar at the end of the original 25-year lease, which means you have that's even if the city doesn't have a use for that land. You know, we understand that there's development coming up that doesn't include that hangar on that land that they can give us notice. Now here's the ABS report. They stayed with the original 25-year plus lease, but what did they do? They proposed to give us an additional 20-year new lease for a total of 45-year lease unless the city exercises its first right of refusal to purchase the hangar at the prevailing market value. So we would get a 45-year lease or we would get bought out by the city at the end of the original lease. But I'm going to read the bottom here. The additional 20 years coupled with the remaining term on the current leases should provide the hangar owners with sufficient time to amortize their investment. But there's another thing that's not on there. A lot of people come here, they want to put a mortgage on their hangar so they can afford to buy. But you'll find out most banks won't provide mortgage money unless you have at least 20 years left on your lease. So if you're at 19 years, you're not going to get net bank money to buy that hangar. The other comparison is on Hangar Row, and I believe it's equally stark. JVation came out and just said none of these leases should be extended, depending on the economic conditions. At the time of reverse city either remove the hangars or rent them month to month. Okay, but what did ABS say? They allow for multiple one-year extensions with the owner's first right of refusal on any new hangar constructed by the city. They're taking care of these people. They're not taking them off the airport, expecting to go away or do whatever. However, part of that is it says the increased rental rates would be raised to prevailing market That's how they'll get there. And you can tell I'm pretty passionate about this, and I hope I haven't offended anybody. And I know over this fall occasion I got a little out of hand myself, and I do apologize to anybody that I've offended over the years, over the last year or so. But we're very passionate about it, and I'm not the only one. We have a room full of people who are passionate about their hands. Now I'll get it back to Barry, let him do the
Okay, we're going to wrap things up here really quickly. So, appreciate Paul's time over the past several months in compiling this data. So we have a couple of conclusions. One, obviously, the city needs to treat all airport stakeholders fairly. We believe that the city understands this and is working in good faith towards that effort. We do have serious concerns as to whether or not JVH has the same metrics. Reversionary leases are higher risk with uncertain rewards. Non-reversionary leases are lower risk with immediate increasing revenue streams over time. JVH's report is problematic at best, with missing and inaccurate data. Additional comparable airports are needed to balance JVH's selectiveness and mistakes. Their list is too narrow and skewed to the airports with shorter terms and reversionary leases, even though there are many comparable airports as we've demonstrated. The city has paid for 2 competing analyses already. They've got some significantly different recommendations. This data and the recommendations and discrepancies thereof need to be reconciled somehow. I'd like to point out just quotes from a previous board meeting. City Manager Mark Anderson explained that he took some preliminary information from Grand Junction Airport, since they were experiencing a similar situation as Heber. And speaking with officials at Salt Lake, as well as Grand Junction, there was a hesitancy to have reversionary hangars because the owners were less likely to maintain them, knowing that after a certain period, they would revert ownership back to the city. And this has been also noted by other airport managers. And also in Grand Junction, some hangars were so deteriorated that they needed to be removed. Ground lease discussions need to start anew in consideration of this new information, including reconsidering JVH's new policy recommendations. As Grand Junction has shown, it's possible to establish a new lease for all current and future hangar owners alike. 2, considering the acknowledgement of Grand Junction, we feel like that's a logical starting point, along with the non-reversionary and reversionary leases at St. George and Billings Airport. And we also recommend that the council consider Airport Board Chairman Rowland's proposal to establish a working group to appoint members that can be agreed upon. We feel like these positions require stakeholders that understand the issues. So we don't spend a bunch of time getting them up to speed. We can continue this process moving forward. And we believe that selections from hangar owners and the Airport Advisory Board are preferred. Last slide, moving forward. So really, what is this all about? We believe that a better course for all parties involved is for the council to authorize a path to policy that utilizes the wisdom, experience, and precedents set by other similar airports and communities in the region to come up with our own solution that provides an equitable outcome and guiding light for the growth of the airport that best suits the particular circumstances of all stakeholders. We firmly believe that it's in the best interest of all stakeholders to not have a cycle of degeneration and repair, but rather a continually well-maintained, attractive asset to the community that invites community members and businesses alike. And that concludes our presentation. Thank you for your time.
Nice job. Next,